Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really crucial and honestly often confusing piece of off-grid tech, the power inverter. It's kind of the silent workhorse that can either make your whole system run beautifully or cause some serious, expensive problems.
So let's just get right to the heart of it, with the puzzle that pretty much every single person shopping for an inverter faces. You see two boxes, they both say they do the same job, but there's this massive and kind of confusing price gap. What is going on here?
I mean, look at this. On the surface, it just makes no sense, right? You've got a 2,000-watt inverter for $50, and right next to it, another 2,000-watt inverter for $300. That is 6 times the price for what looks like the exact same promise. We're going to find out exactly what you're paying for with that extra money.
Okay, so to solve this little mystery, we first need to get on the same page about what an inverter's fundamental role even is. It's not just the box that you plug things into, you can think of it more like a translator for electricity.
See, it's all about converting one type of electricity into another. Your solar panels, your batteries, they give you direct current, or DC. Just picture a smooth, flat, continuous line of power. But all your appliances, your pumps, your tools, they all need alternating current, AC, which is a wave that goes up and down, up and down.
So the inverter's one and only job is to take that flat DC power and basically chop it up to create that AC wave. But, and this is the whole secret, the quality of that chop is what's behind that huge difference in both price and performance.
And this brings us right to the core of the issue. Turns out there are two very different types of AC waves an inverter can create. And this simple analogy, well, it makes it crystal clear.
So here is the key difference. The cheaper, modified sine wave inverters, they produce this jagged, blocky power output that looks a lot like a set of stairs. On the other hand, a pure sine wave inverter creates a smooth, clean wave, like a perfect slide. It's pretty much identical to the clean power you get from your utility company.
Now those jagged edges on that staircase wave, they aren't just an ugly waveform. They actually introduce a ton of electrical noise and static into your power. Engineers have a name for this. They call it total harmonic distortion, or THD, but for us, we can just call it dirty power. So what does dirty power actually mean for you? Well, this is where a technical concept turns into very real and often very costly problems for the exact equipment you rely on every single day.
The first and, maybe the most critical issue for any farm or homestead is with motors. We're talking about your water pumps, refrigerators, aerators, your power tools. I mean, this is the real backbone of your whole operation. When you try to run a motor on that dirty, blocky power, it really struggles. It's forced to run hotter than it should, it makes this distinct, loud humming noise, and worst of all, it consumes up to 30% more electricity just to do the exact same amount of work.
And you can literally see that waste in action right here. All that extra energy isn't turning into useful work, it's just being lost as excess heat and vibration. And that is slowly but surely destroying the motor from the inside out.
So, the crucial point to take away is this. You're not just wasting power and draining your batteries faster. You are actively damaging your expensive, critical equipment every single time it runs.
But it's not just about the big, heavy-duty motors anymore. Modern agriculture technology, it relies on something that's even more sensitive, and that's the microchip.
The rule here is actually incredibly simple. If it has a microchip in it, it needs a pure sine wave. That's everything from your irrigation controllers and smart sensors to the chargers for your drones and even your Wi-Fi router. These little components are extremely vulnerable to all that electrical noise.
You see, this dirty power can totally confuse the delicate power supplies inside these devices, and the result? Just unreliable performance. You'll start seeing things like flickering screens, your computer might crash for no reason, and your automated timers could mysteriously reset themselves, which could potentially ruin an entire crop cycle. All right, so I think we've established why a pure sine wave inverter is pretty much non-negotiable for a modern setup. Now, let's just walk through the simple process for choosing the right one for your specific needs.
There are really only 3 key specs you need to look for to size your inverter correctly. You've got to know its continuous wattage, its surge rating, and its input voltage. It's that simple.
Now you have to pay very close attention to that surge rating. This is the momentary burst of power the inverter can supply just to kick a motor into action. So for example, an 800-watt well pump might need 2,400 watts for just a fraction of a second to get started. If your inverter can't supply that surge, well, the pump will just never turn on.
And finally, you have to make sure the inverter's input voltage, whether it's 12, 24, or 48 volts, matches your battery system. And hey, here's a little pro tip for you. For any system over 1,000 watts, it's way more efficient to use a 24 or 48 volt system. It reduces heat, and it lets you use thinner, cheaper wires.
When it's all said and done, it comes down to this really powerful and memorable metaphor. Feeding your high-tech farm equipment power from a cheap, modified wave inverter, it's like trying to run a performance athlete on a diet of nothing but junk food. It's just not going to work long-term.
You know, in the past, a pure sine wave inverter might have been seen as some kind of luxury item. But today, for any modern farm or homestead that relies on pumps, freezers, and computers, it is not an upgrade. It is the absolute foundation of a stable and reliable power system. So we'll leave you with this final thought to consider for your own setup. When you look at your power system, ask yourself, are you building on solid rock with clean power, or are you building on shifting sand with junk food electricity? Because that choice will determine the future of your equipment